Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of the Endo Files. Today, I am meeting with Dr. Reid Pullen, who has done tons of things. One, he served in the military. He gives lectures all over the world. He's an author of his own series of textbooks, which is really exciting. He's an health advocate. He is a husband, a father. He's an extraordinary endodontist. And all of those things wrapped up to one is one of my favorite things is he is dedicating to serving other people and caring for other people. He also, I failed to mention, does some access to care charitable trips to serve people outside of the country on a regular basis. So just heart and soul, tough as nails on the outside, soft as ice cream on the inside, just a lovable person. Reid, I'm so happy you're here.
Thanks, Kim. Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah. So we're going to have a good time today. We've always had a good time. The minute I met you, which I don't even want to talk about, it was in Hawaii, right? We were in Hawaii.
Yes,
I can't remember. I knew we made an instant connection and I knew we were going to be friends for life because it was just an awesome day. And you're intelligent, you're fun. Anyway, I just knew the minute we met, it was going to be a lifetime friendship. And I'm so glad that it has been. I want to start first by talking a little bit about just you as a person. You served in the Army, correct?
That's right. Yes.
Okay. And that was like straight out of high school?
No. I went to college and then I applied for the HPSP scholarship when I was in college, and they pay for dental school. So the military paid for my dental school. The HPSP is like a health professions scholarship program, and then they paid for my dental school at USC, which, hallelujah, it saved me a lot of money. And then I went into the military, into the Army, stationed in Landstuhl, Germany for 3 years. And looking back, it was an absolutely wonderful time to, not realizing at the time, but it was actually a great time of learning and just traveling and having fun.
I can only imagine you in Germany. So like, what were some of the highlights of being there? You were there for what, 3 years?
For 3 years. Yeah. I'd say the number one highlight was just traveling. And my wife was with me the entire time. We just had our first son, RJ. He was born a few weeks before we moved to Germany. And then we had another daughter, Kate. She was born 2 years into it. But we just traveled all around Europe. And we grew to love Germany. It became a second home to us. And we just had so much fun traveling. And, I made some great connections too in the military. Adam Colombo, one of our fellow U.S. Endo colleagues, was one of my best friends in the Army. And we're still very close and stay connected. In fact, we lived in the same little village. We lived off base, and we lived in this little village in Germany. It's in the forest. It was just fantastic. So it was a good time.
If I know you guys, you might have caused a little bit of trouble every now and then.
Yeah, we did.
If I know you.
Yes. Yeah, I was pretty immature, but we did have a lot of fun. I have to admit, we kept the morale up in our unit, as they like to say. We did get into some trouble, both Adam and I. I'm sure Adam's not happy if I tell, but we did get into some trouble, and so we had to scale back before we received an Article 15, which we were close to getting from just practical jokes and stuff.
Oh my gosh. And what's an Article 15 for those people like me who don't know what that is?
It's just it's kind of like a demerit times on steroids. It's when you get really busted in the military and they give you an Article 15, which I don't know if they kick you out on that or not, but you're basically ruined your career if you're going to stay in. Obviously we weren't staying in, so we thought the entire time we had a lot of fun, but sometimes some of our jokes would go too far. And so
I have to know, like that. Favorite practical joke that you did that you can tell to the whole world?
Well, there's a few that I can't tell, but I can't mention, but there was one that we really liked. And even our commanding colonel, who we're still close with, I'm still close with him. And I actually stayed at his house a few years ago in Indiana. but he even brought this joke up. He thought it was still funny. We took another officers in the dead of winter. We took his entire office and we put it out on the roof, and we set up. I don't even know how we got it out there, all the stuff out there, but we set it back up on the roof exactly the way he had it inside. And I think we had to take the windows off and everything. So when he came to, his whole office was set up, but it was outside on the roof. And the colonel thought that was pretty funny.
That is hilarious.
Yeah.
And that's dedication. I mean, that's not easy to do.
It's called too much time on your hands. We should have been working on patients, right? Not screwing around.
Of course. That is too funny, though. That's what memories are made of, though. And I mean, probably it's why he still loves you today, even though you were a troublemaker. So that cracks me up. I forgot to mention that today we are drinking green juice right now. So I've got mine. I'm kind of cheating a little bit because mine is Athletic Greens. Actually, I'm plugging. I feel like I'm doing a commercial for Athletic Greens right now, but they are really good. But it's like I was traveling this week and got in. I was planning on going and buying some green juice last night that was fresh pressed, and I didn't get in till late because of thunderstorms here in Tulsa. So I was scrambling today and it was like, oh, I forgot I have Athletic Greens, and that is totally like your vegetable juice. So it didn't have to be green juice. It just had to be vegetable juice, but still.
Perfect. Yeah.
So, and
so tell me, farmer's juice.
Farmer's juice. Is that what you always, do you always drink the same juice or do you just grab one?
Well, the Athletic Greens I've had that and it's excellent, but this farmer's juice they ship it every month or every 2 months, whatever you want. They ship 30 juices to you and it's all vegetable juice and it's all fresh. And, and so I've been doing that for about a year and a half. It's because I don't eat vegetables. I don't get my vegetables in. I don't like vegetables.
I do better now than I used to. Like I actually kind of crave a few, but it's not like I'm this, I mean, I'm pretty much stick to a few, like asparagus, Brussels sprouts, broccoli, cauliflower. I can do kale in smoothies, but I don't really like it as just lettuce, spinach. And that's really about it. Like even zucchini and stuff, I'm not a big fan. Like I like it raw, I guess, but not cooked. I don't know. I'm kind of weird. And nobody else in my house, they'll eat salad all day, but they're meat and potatoes kind of guys. So we keep the Athletic Greens around. So at least mom feels better about people's nutrition support, I guess. So I can't get them to drink it or eat them any other way. So what's the significance of the green juice? Like, or the farmer's vegetable juice is what I should call it. Why is this so it's a daily routine for you just for the reason, because you just get the Athletic, I'm sorry, not the Athletic Greens, just because you get your vegetables in that way?
Yeah, that's how it started. In this was advertised from the Bulletproof Coffee guy. He really likes this, and it's fresh. It's actually made, and then it has the expiration date of a couple months, so it's a pretty fresh juice. And they make it, and then I think it has 20 vegetables in it, and so I don't know. I just feel better when I drink it, and not only do I feel better in my body, but I also feel better mentally that I'm getting my vegetables in. At least I'm getting something in, that's healthier than the meat and potatoes or some of the fried crap that I eat at times,
Yeah, it cracks me up. Blake's always like, I'm like, we're going to have whatever, protein that we're eating. And then he's like, and then potatoes and corn. I'm like, I feel like that's probably wrong. Like, he's like, but it's really good. I'm like, I know you like it, but cracks me up. So anyway, I didn't want to digress. I didn't want to get too far without talking about the vegetable juice. And we'll probably come back to that when we get a little bit more into the conversation with you, because I know you're a big health advocate too. And I know is going to come out later. So we'll reserve that. After you served in the military, how long were you dedicated and had to serve for like was it just 3 years, 5 years until your school? Like, what was the program like in exchange for them paying for your dental school? How long did you have to serve in the military?
Well, I was supposed to serve 4 years, but when our orders came out, it was they had on there 3 years. So someone made a mistake, and so we were like, "Hey, this is what the orders say," and they stuck with it. I also was lucky enough to do Yeah. How lucky is that, right?
Yeah, I was to say, I mean, not well, I don't know, it depends on who you are, whether you think that's lucky or not, but I bet that doesn't happen too often is all I'm saying. But
Yeah, at least you have the choice. You could get out or stay. But I did at the time they called it an AEGD. Now it's just an AGD, Advanced General Dentistry Residency. So I did a 1 year AGD in Germany, in Landstuhl, Germany, and that's really that was quite amazing because you come out pretty green out of dental school. You don't really know, the basics, but you're learning. You're in the learning mode. So now you have a chance for a whole year to spend 3 months in each specialty. And, we're talking with colonels, majors, colonels that have been doing it for, 10, 15, 20 years, that specialty teaching us. And so we had an opportunity to really learn from all these colonels and kind of to not only be exposed to the specialty, but also to learn some of the ins and outs of the simpler, treatment cases like an oral surgery or pedo or endo. And this gave me an opportunity to see what I really like too, because I was going to be an oral surgeon. 100%, I was going to be an oral surgeon, and that still probably fits my personality more. But I started going and started getting into it, and at the end of the 3 years, I really became interested in endodontics. And part of that is because I was terrible at it and I didn't know how to do it, and I was frustrated.
that doesn't
you know,
surprise me and your personality at all. This is challenging.
so
I will fix this. I will become a master. That's
yeah, so why
hilarious.
not stay? I'm a big believer in being uncomfortable in life. I think we go through life very comfortable in our affluent society, and I'm as guilty as anyone. So everything I'm saying, I'm part of this, and I'm a big believer in at times getting uncomfortable. And that was very uncomfortable to me, is to go into an endodontic residency because I did feel very inadequate in my endodontic treatment. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know how to do it. I was frustrated, all that stuff. And that's actually why I love to teach it too. I love to teach, simple and medium, hard, difficult root canal treatment to general dentists because I was in their shoes. I practiced, after the Army, I got out in 3 years and I practiced for 2 years in private practice as a general dentist. So I have the general dentist mindset, basically 5 years of general dentistry, 2 years in private practice. Then I went back to my endodontic residency at the Long Beach VA hospital and finished that in 2006.
2006. Okay. And that's a bad place to probably do your endodontic residency in Long Beach, California. So that fit right in. And did you grow up in California?
Yeah, I grew up in Southern California in
Okay. So
Orange
you've just
County,
been
Orange County area.
Orange County. Okay. So you've been a surfer your whole life then. So that made sense for you to be in residency program there and then continue that kind of life too. So
Yeah, I wasn't complaining that I got
yeah,
into
as
Long
just
Beach. It was quite a bit of luck to get in there, and just to get into any specialty residency is difficult, especially endodontics. And so, anytime you get in your first try, you're celebrating.
no
You're very
kidding.
happy. So I'll take
Well,
it.
you must have been doing something right to get in on your first try and into the program there. So you must have
I'm
impressed your your undergrad mentors at least enough to give good recommendations. And then
I
the
think I'm
general
good at just
dentistry.
faking it. Yeah, I can fake it. I'm just good at faking it. Like I know what I'm talking about.
You are so full of it. That is not even true. You're so good at what you do. That cracks me
Thank
up.
you.
But I know too, like when you're going into residency program, there's a lot of programs out there that actually won't let you into endodontics unless you have done general dentistry for a while. That was new information to me, and I've started hearing that lately. Like it's almost a difference maker. Was that the case when you went through?
Oh yeah. There's definitely some programs out there that they want experience, and I think that's very wise, to be honest with you, because you have to have some of that general dentist knowledge. It actually really informs your endodontics too. And I still use that knowledge that I had in those 5 years as a general dentist to help with to make me better as a clinician in my own practice. So, I remember I've had associates in the past that they had gone straight through school, straight through into the specialty, and they didn't know how to cement a PFM. or how to cement a crown that came off permanently. Like the general dentist said, just cement it permanently, you know. And I remember they're just like, I'm not comfortable doing it, and that's okay. But it's just, they didn't. It's just they
Just
didn't
didn't
spend a lot
know.
of time in the dental field, So it's a
Definitely
good. I
helps
think
you
it's
in
a
your perspective.
yeah,
Go ahead.
absolutely, absolutely. No, that was it.
I was going to say, and it also from a relational standpoint, I have to imagine that it's really good for solidifying those referral relationships too, because you understand how to communicate with them and with your general dentist and work with them, and it's got to benefit your endodontic practice having that background just from a relational standpoint. So all is good. So how did when? So it cracks me up that you decided to go into endodontics because you thought you were bad at it and you wanted to master it. The oral surgery, because I mean those are two totally different things. Like I have always equated, and I think everybody, and I hope this isn't insulting to any oral surgeons out there, but they're like the carpenters. They're big, heavy construction, and they're in, and it's it's carpentry work. You're hammering things, you're taking things out, you're demolishing, all that kind of stuff. And to me, endodontics is refined. It's like an art. Like you are creating art. It's very refined, and you're working in this small space, and it's very delicate and requires a lot of finesse. And that is probably not a word I would use to describe you at all. So, do you ever think you made the wrong decision, or are you good with, like, you don't miss the oral surgery piece at all, or how do you feel about it?
No, I mean, I'm very happy I'm in endodontics. Of course, I never really look back, in that I didn't do oral surgery, but I so agree with you. It's like construction workers versus uh, painters, an artist, like painting a canvas. So in fact, I use that in my lectures. I said, when you're shaping canals, you're not a construction worker. You're not hammering the file into the canal. You're painting. You're a Van Gogh, a Picasso. You're brushing. You're painting the canvas, the endodontic canvas, and that's exactly what I've had to teach myself, because I was a construction worker. I was going to be a cop. Like, really, I should probably be a police officer. Thank God I'm not in this day and age. Got lucky on that one. Although I'd almost be retired with a huge pension, but I really have a more of a cop mentality, and that probably would have suited me well. And but I'm very happy where I'm at. And my father-in-law was a retired police officer, so he says, Reid, you're doing great, doing what you're doing. And so I went on a few ride-alongs with some of my friends and with him, and so you can get that feel. But yeah, I'm very happy with what I'm doing. Um, so I can never complain that we're in endodontics.
For sure. And I was going to say probably a little bit of a different lifestyle being in endodontics versus being a cop, although they both serve people and take care of people. That's really, there's a comparison there, but you probably live a little bit better lifestyle than most police officers do, I would think. So, and
I've
different kind
yeah
of
I've,
stress, still stressful, but different kind of stress.
yeah, a little more less safety stress. I don't have the safety
I was just,
stress that cops
yeah,
have. But yeah,
yeah. I
definitely,
think your
probably.
your wife knows you're coming home every night. That's really good. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I probably fly first class a little more than if I was a police officer. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
probably, probably so. It's funny though. So your brother-in-law, he works for US Endo Partners, and we were actually talking about this the other day. He was, because he's known you since he was 10 years old, and you're
Yeah.
a little bit older than him, correct?
Yeah. Yeah. Shoot, I'm 49. So Ronnie
Okay.
is, yeah,
He's a
35
young
maybe.
pup. Is he 35?
Is he younger
He's
than that? Sorry, Ronnie. I should know his age.
For the love of
79
God,
or
I
99. That's
hope
right.
he's not 35. I'm hoping he's at least 40. That makes me feel
Oh
better about
yeah, he
myself
is.
if he's
That's
40.
right.
But
I think 79.
are you just saying that to make me feel better?
Yeah.
That's okay.
Ronnie looks so good. That's the
I
problem.
know he
He looks
does.
like he's
He's
30.
annoying.
Yeah.
He and his wife both. They're annoying people. But
Yes.
it was funny though. We were talking, and he was like, I've known Reid since I was 10, and he never once mentioned how great endodontics was to me. Like maybe throw a person a bone and just be like, you might want to consider this as a career because it's a really great career path. And he was like, no, Reid never said a word.
He, yeah, he
And so,
told me that one time. It made me laugh. He goes, "You couldn't have told me that what you were doing was amazing."
yeah,
That was
that's
funny.
exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah, I kind of feel like the same. I'm like, here I have, so it's funny. I also had the realization the other day. I was talking to Scott Doyle and a couple other people, and then I was introducing myself to some people that have joined US Endo recently, not doctors, but just on the support team side. And I started realizing, like, I've been in endodontics, just the field, not as a practicing endodontist, but just supporting the endodontic industry longer than you guys have been endodontists. So I am old. I am now, I am even like, I remember when I was the cool hip person in
Yeah.
the, like out there and talking to everybody. And now I'm like, and I'm an old woman. I have been doing this for 23 years.
That's
How
crazy.
did that even, I know that's crazy. Like, makes me feel old. But anyway, so
Yeah. It's
we've been,
we're not cool anymore. I don't know if I was ever cool, but we
we,
were once kind of cool, and we're not cool
I think we were
anymore.
cool. I think we are still cool in our own way. It's all fine. So, I want to go back to something that you were mentioning, and it's the connection, because that's actually a story I've never heard about you. I knew that teaching is your passion. I know you love to teach, and we can get into a little bit of what that looks like for you. Um, but I had never heard the story of why you love to teach, and it was because you had so much problem with it, and that you just want to help others. But I will say, being in the industry as long as I have, um, not every endodontist feels that way. Not every endodontist feels like you should help general dentists do better root canal therapy, or even do root canal therapy, I should say. I think if you're going to do it, they want you to do it well. But a lot of people don't like that general dentists do it. And here you are educating them. What's your mindset there? Like, why do that?
Oh, definitely. I completely understand. Some of the endodontists, and I have some friends that we talk about this. But my thought is, if you look at the stats, general dentists do 70 to 75% of root canal therapy in the United States, and then the specialists, we do 25 to 30%. So my whole motto when I teach is, I want to help the general dentist do the simple to medium difficult root canals better, because 70% of them are going to do them anyway. So why not teach them how to do them better, and hopefully they can learn to be more efficient, more effective, and get a more better and excellent result in their therapy. And so I've developed kind of this root canal playbook. I call it the RCT playbook, and the 4 quarters of the root canal game, which is modeled after a football game, because I love football, stuff like that. So I've done these, written these little guidebooks for fun, and it's all fun, where it's a step-by-step technique. It was all stuff that I wish I had when I was a general dentist that I couldn't find, and maybe it was out there, but now I really have a passion for that, to give these general dentists that are struggling and scared and insecure of doing root canal treatment a chance to do simple cases better, because a lot of them are going to do it anyway, and they're just going to do it poorly. So we should be teaching them at least how to do it a little better, the simple ones, and then refer the hard ones out.
I feel like you should feel more like it's an obligation to do it right, because if they're going to be doing it, did you guys, is it a Hippocratic oath that you guys take? Is that the same when you're becoming endodontist? I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm
I
making
don't know.
that up, but I feel like
I
your pledge and your dedication is to better patient care and taking
Right.
care of the patients, and knowing, that was my point. I think doctors take a Hippocratic oath. I sound very
We
unintelligent
probably
right
take
now,
it too.
but
I just don't remember. So, but
I
yeah,
think it's in your white coat ceremony. I'm pretty sure you do. And,
yeah, it applies, right?
and it, yeah, it applies. And the thing is so knowing that general dentists do so much of the endodontic cases, so much of them, they have to know, how to do it. And the interesting thing to me too is knowing when to refer. Like the AAE has the case assessment, that they put out there, that I think is a really good guide for anybody like trying to make a decision. Like, am I equipped to be able to handle this? It's a difficulty case assessment, I should say. How difficult is it? And am I equipped to do this? And I think that's a good guideline for any GP to have to start if they're going to be doing endodontics. The other thing is having an endodontic mentor. I think it matters. And a relationship with that person. Ben Johnson taught me a long time ago, because I remember back in the old days when it was very unpopular, even at the AAE, for endodontists to be teaching GPs. Like, it was a controversial subject, and people that, like, the meetings would actually have debates about those things. And Ben Johnson and I were talking about it one day, and because I was just trying to figure out, like, why is this a good thing? Why is it a bad thing? Like, why wouldn't people think it's a good thing? But he said, you know what? The best referrals I ever had came from people who tried to do root canals and called me because they got themselves in a jam, and they're like, I have messed this up royally. This, whether they broke a file or they perfed or they zipped, whatever it was that they did, and they just couldn't complete the case. And he was like, yeah, send it over to me and I'll totally take it. He goes, and then I would send them a kit back and say, hey, I just wanted to follow up with you and let you know, here's where the things went wrong. Here's what happened. And next time, if you'll use this equipment and you'll have these tools, you should be able to finish and complete that root canal. And he goes, it was those people that I educated and spent the time with and gave them the tools that they would need to do it that started sending 100% of their cases. Like, they just quit doing root canals altogether because they realized how difficult they were. So it was always interesting to me. So I was like, the best way, knowledge is power, and having the power of knowing how difficult what you do is kind of builds that referral relationship and sharing that information. I mean, do you agree with that? Or is that what you see when you're dealing with your referrals and educating, I should say?
Yeah, I think, I think, not, my goal isn't always to get them to send me 100% of the cases, but I'll take it. Of course, I'm always happy. But yeah, I find that we educate them, and then they start to get better educated on diagnosis, on, first of all, knowing which tooth to treat if it does need treatment, but then also the case selection, going, man, I cannot do, this is a tough case. I'm going to send it out. I'm sending it out to the endodontist, or I'm going to send it to Reid. And I know better now, versus if they're not educated, they may not know better, and they'll get into a tough case and they'll maybe ledge it. And then it can be difficult to recover that when they refer it out. So yeah, I really do believe education isn't just about the general dentist doing more root canals, but just knowing when to do a root canal and when not to, and refer it out.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's interesting to me too. Do you have any endodontists? Because I know you actually educate people from all over. You have a course that you do there in California. And do you ever get hate mail from other endodontists because you're teaching their GPs, or does anybody even know? I was just curious.
I love that question. I've never had that question before, and I love it because it is an interesting question. I mean, why? I would be frustrated too if some guy's teaching my best referral how to do root canals. I have never received any hate mail on that. And I teach something called the 2-day root camp boot camp at my office about 6 times a year. But yeah, that's funny. I haven't had any calls either. You think someone would call me and go, hey, thanks a lot, jerk, for teaching my referrals how to do endo. But yeah, those.
Except what you're doing is teaching them when to refer. So I think, like, they should be calling and thanking you, honestly. And I'm probably also bringing up, I think the endodontic field is more evolved than it was back in the day when it was battling, like, oh, that we don't need them doing more. We don't need them doing more. But I was just curious if anybody ever was out there saying that. So.
Yeah, I'm sure there are, but I just haven't heard it. So at least I haven't said it to my face. So, which, it's okay if they did. I could see why. I could understand why they're frustrated.
Yeah, it's interesting. I will never forget. Totally unrelated, but about teaching. And I used to work for a company, and there's a product there that's not super popular amongst endodontics, and I'm sure everybody could guess immediately what it is. And that's fine. It's Thermophil, and Ben Johnson was the one that created it. And it's like this love-hate relationship with the product. But we had a doctor one time who was going out and doing specific thermophil courses. And they were doing it because there were so many problems with retreatment, and people hated the product and they hated retreating it, but people were using it. And so anyway, we were like, we're going to educate on how to retreat and how to do this. So this doctor went out, and I got an email, not an email. I'm sorry. I actually still have it. I wish I had it to bring up right now. I got hate mail from an endodontist who called, and I don't think Dr. Nimzik, it was Dr. Steve Nimzik who was doing this, and it was years ago. I don't think he'll mind me saying this, but they actually called him a hooker and told him to go put on his red pumps and I mean, and caught like vulgar things I can't say on air. It was terrible. And they were like, why don't you put on your red pumps and your or red stilettos and your fishnet stockings when you're out prostituting, like all this stuff. And then called him a couple of choice words. And I was like, oh my gosh, people are so passionate about certain things. So anyway, I was just curious to see if anybody else was passionate.
Endodontist is that's in the email. I won't say the name.
You might.
I have a couple guesses.
Anyway. I was going to say I have a couple guesses as well, but they did not leave their name for sure. They just sent the invite. Okay. No, they just sent the invite back. So if you are out there and you're listening, whoever this doctor is, I'd love to know, because I still have it. Yeah, but I have it framed. I mean, like I still have it I had it framed in my office at the company, and I brought it with me. And I still, because I'm like, it brought pure entertainment to me. I was just like, oh, education's a good thing, but it's threatening to others. So anyway, I was wondering if you ever had that problem with being threatening. So, so you've been practicing since 2006, endodontics since 2006. But obviously have been in healthcare since 1999.
I graduated dental school in 99. Yeah. So 23 years in dentistry. Same as you've been in endo, right?
Yeah.
23 years.
Yeah. 23 years. So
old fogies.
I know we should quit talking about that so people don't know our ages, but they'll be able to do the math. So one of the things that has affected you is the physicality, which always amazes me, but it's the physicality of doing endodontics and being in the same position every day and using the same muscles and just like when I was talking to you before we started doing the podcast, you were talking about how you have trouble walking now. And like, there's this whole thing about, just about health that you never considered when you first started. And now it's something that you're passionate about and feel like you need to share some information because it can help other people. Is that, I mean, go ahead and kind of tell us where you're at with everything. And I know you strive hard. You're a person, like you're in shape, you're physically fit. You constantly are working out and you do outrageous things. Just in general in life. I mean, you're a surfer. You'll do anything once physically and try to do it, right? You like, I'm trying to remember, is it jujitsu? You're a big jujitsu guy.
Brazilian jiu-jitsu. Yes. Been doing that for probably 12 years. Yeah. And, all of the stuff we do takes a toll on your body. And I'm starting to realize that now, 23 years into dentistry, but every day as an endodontist, we sit frozen. Now, thankfully, we can sit straight up with our neck up, but we sit frozen under a microscope for 8 hours a day, times 4 or 5 days a week, times 20 years. And it takes a toll on your body. And I call it DPT, dental physical trauma. And we also have DMT, dental mental trauma. So we don't only absorb all the physical trauma from sitting still and frozen for an hour to an hour and a half for each procedure, 8 or 9 hours a day, 4 to 5 days a week. We also absorb all I call it trauma packets, little mini trauma packets from all of our patients that are incredibly anxious, that are acting out with poor behavior because they're scared, or they have dental PTSD. And we're working on patients. We're doing very difficult procedures on awake patients. I wish they would be asleep. It would be so much easier, But not only do we absorb the dental mental trauma, we absorb this dental physical trauma day in, day out. And my question is, how can we as a profession, as dentists and endodontists, stay healthy and vital as we start to age? So I'll be 50 in a few months here. And the last 5 years of my life have been the hardest 5 years personally for me. We've had some very difficult and very traumatic times with a couple of our kids that went through some terrible times. But it's also been the best 5 years professionally for me. Joining US Endo was one of the most wonderful things that I've done, and I couldn't be happier from doing that. And also my teaching and my education, has taken off, and it's been very exciting and a lot of fun. But all of that is, if you're not healthy, and at the end of the day, I would stand up after treating patients for 8 or 9 hours. It'd be like 5:30, 6 p.m. And I would walk bent over the first 30 steps. And my staff would look at me and go, oh my gosh, he's not 49. He looks like he's 80. And I had so much hip and lower back tightness, and it came from my hamstrings and tightness and just from sitting still, because we sit all day. I would stand up. I could barely walk. I'd have to loosen up. Then you go home. What do we do when you go home? Well, I'm in pain. So
crash on the couch.
Yeah. Crash on the couch.
You drink.
I drink. I happen to like wine, Kim. I also happen to like beer. I also happen to like tequila. I like vodka. I like rum. I like whiskey. And I like gin. So it's a slight problem, right? If you like every liquor out there and you're in pain, and you want to de-stress,
you want to ease that pain. At least you can have a variety of things. It's not just one thing. You have variety in the relief in which you get your pain.
That's one positive way to look at it, right? Yeah. So
I was looking for the positive there.
Yeah, I love it. So I get a glass of wine and I sit on the couch and watch Netflix with my wife. I get up 2 hours later. I'm stiffer than could be. I'm so sore and stiff in my lower back and hips. And then I repeat, So 5-10 years ago, or about 10 years ago, I was a Little League coach. And when my son was 12, and I was coaching their team, and I was demonstrating how to field a ground ball. They hit me the ball. It was after work. I could not bend over to get the ball and field the ball. And my best friend was one of the coaches with me. He's a physical therapist. And he looked at me like, what is wrong with you? No sympathy, of course, as best friends, as guys, we have no sympathy. He's like, what is wrong with you? And I said, I don't know. I'm stiff, And so I really has become a passion of mine, because I have not figured this out. So don't hear me when I say I'm still working on this day in and day out. I'm still having pain, but I have a real passion I think we need to start talking about this as endodontists, as dentists. We need to have, I think, more discussion about longevity, about physical health, mental health. How can we stay healthy as we age and as we get into closer to retirement? My goal is, if I can control it, I would like to be the one that decides when I retire. I don't want my body telling me that I have to retire. Now, I get it. There's some of us, and I have friends that just, unlucky. Something happens, they have debilitating illness, and you have to retire. But if we can help it, I would like to fight that vitality decline when you in dentistry, and figure out how can we be more vital, healthy, and happy as we age. And that makes us better clinicians, better husbands, wives, better fathers or mothers, and just better people all around, if we're not in pain all the time. And so,
yeah, it's amazing to me too. What you say is true, because I know a lot of endodontists. I know a lot of them. And I would say there's a significant percentage of them that have had to have some kind of surgery, who definitely battle pain all the time. And a lot of them go into teaching roles at universities because they just can't bear to sit in a chair all day long again. And and what's interesting now to me is there is a physical connection. There's a connection between the mental emotional stress and the things that you're picking up on, and how that it doesn't permeate. What's the word I'm looking for? But it translates into pain in the body in certain places. And your hips and low back is a place where you hold a lot of trauma, stress, and just anything. It's just all that trauma and everything. It's weird. It just kind of settles into your hips. It's a big, like when you're doing yoga, you do all these hip openers, and people will start crying because it's just like this release of emotional baggage that comes out of you if you've been suppressing a lot of it for a long time. And you actually, because we both have that in common as far as hip and low back pain. Mine's obviously for a totally different reason, but you sent me a book, and I'm trying to actually remember the name of the book, but it's got a lot of exercises that are kind of unique. Do you remember?
It's called Foundation. And if I don't know, I know you don't have
Yes.
a camera, but it's Eric Goodman
Oh my
and Peter
gosh.
Park. Yeah, and I think this
That is
is
hilarious. Mine sits by my bed. That's hilarious that you had it just right there by you. Did
well,
you plan that? Were you going to talk about it later?
yeah. I mean, I brought some books some of my favorite books. If it came up, I just had some books, but I wasn't sure if the camera was on or not. But yeah, I think that. And Ronnie told me about that. You know, our
Okay.
amazing COO of US Indo and my brother-in-law. Uh, but
Yep.
he told me about that because he watches me walk and he sees me struggle, and Ronnie struggles too from all his activity in the Marine Corps and being deployed to Iraq and all the stuff he's done. And I
Right.
think majority of the population, and especially dentists and endodontists, we do struggle with that neck or lower back pain or hip pain. So anything that can increase my quality of life and just make me a little bit happier and healthier, a little bit less pain free, And Foundation, if you do these exercises, and they take about 15 to 20 minutes to do 3 rounds of them, they're really quite amazing. And it does, I
I,
feel like it's the gift that keeps on giving. It gives a release for a couple days. What were you going to say?
it it changed. I mean, honestly, it's amazing. I can, because you sent it to me. You were like, I know they're weird, but just do them. I promise. And I was like, okay, Reid does it. I'll do it. I'm going to try it out. It is amazing to me because I've had hip surgery. I have bursitis. I have arthritis in my hips. I have labral tears. I have all kinds of, just like, they're a hot mess, right? And between that, the foundations, which is to me some, like, a lot of yoga probably too, but between that, yoga, and Pilates, those have been the three things that keep me out of pain. And it's amazing. So I would recommend the book to anybody.
Isn't that wonderful though? Because each of us have to figure out, each of us have a little bit of a different physical makeup. And that was one of the points I wanted to make today is we have to kind of figure out what is going to keep us vital. Now, maybe some of us it's running, other people it's yoga. I have friends that swear by yoga. They said if I don't do yoga, I can't function. And then others will do Pilates or some type of just I do a massage once a week, stuff like that. So I love to hear that from your end of it, because you sit a lot too. Everyone sits in the
Oh, I
world.
sit all day.
We
Yeah.
sit all
It's like,
day,
I know.
and I
Go
think
ahead.
we're starting to incorporate. It's kind of neat to see this, and I have three of them myself. I have three standing desks. I have a portable standing desk, two portable standing desks in my house, and then I have a standing desk treadmill, a work treadmill that I haven't yet moved, but I'm going to move it to my office and have a
I
sit
want
down
one
desk
of
and a
those.
standing desk. Yeah. So you can work at about a mile per hour. And so you're moving, but you can still type. It's a little bit slower. I've noticed you're not quite as efficient, but you can still do your, minor work on it. Not, you can't write a book on it, but you can do regular work and emails without sitting all day. And so those are kind of some things that there's all these little adjunct things that we can do that can help us maintain our vitality and to be less in pain and less tight. So those are kind of things that I was hoping we talk about as we kind of move on, in this podcast.
Yeah, let's just dive into it. Let's go there. Cause one, like I said, I know a million people who can benefit from this, whether you're practicing endodontics or supporting endodontics like I do, sitting from my desk every day. Like I can say this honestly for like the AAE, leading up to the AAE, it's a big annual meeting. And it's just a lot of work. Like we were there for the first time as a company, right? This year, not the first time, but back from COVID, all this kind of stuff. And we were going in a big way, but we had to create everything from scratch. So my team and I, like, we literally pulled off what I would say normally there'd be 20 to 25 people working on this stuff. And three of us were able, and four of us, but the three on the creative marketing side of things were able to get all this done. But I was sitting at a desk literally for 16 hours a day for about 2 months. And the next thing I know, I look down and there's like 20 pounds on me. And I know a lot of it's stress. I know a lot of it's just sitting all day and doing nothing else. Cause I mean, I wasn't exercise. I went out of my exercise regimen. What's weird is I was eating less. Like I wasn't getting up to eat meals and doing any of that, but still like just everything just kind of poured on. So it's terrible when you're sitting all day. But anyway, I'd love to see like what other books do you have with you? Cause I think everybody today would be interested in hearing what you do. And then I want to talk about your routine too, because I know you do some unconventional things that are probably becoming more mainstream, but I'd like to hear all of that.
Definitely. I mean, I don't know if it's exactly true, but we hear this phrase all the time that sitting is the new smoking, and not how unhealthy sitting all day is. But the problem is a lot of us in endodontics or dentistry, we sit. Now, I actually, for about 2 or 3 years, I actually did most of my root canal standing because I was having significant discomfort and pain sitting all day. So I've actually can do both. I can stand and sit. If I do surgery, an apicoectomy, I have to sit. I haven't been able to learn how to do surgery standing. I just, for whatever reason, I can do it if I had to, but so that was an interesting thing. Just I found, but I find even standing, I'm frozen standing. So the
You're
pain
still,
would
yeah,
go
you're
for
still being very, you're like, aren't you just like it's hand motions and little bitty finger motions, right?
right. So you're
Yeah.
frozen with the microscope standing, but it's better. You're not sitting all the time. I don't have. I'd say that Foundation was probably the number one book for stretching, and just, or at least the start, a good foundation for stretch and kind of loosening things up. And then I do more stretching. But there is a book called, I have it here. I don't know if the camera's gonna. It doesn't really matter, but there is something that's very
Yeah.
interesting, and it's called 75
75
Hard.
hard.
And it's kind of
Yes.
a fad thing, I know, but it's pretty awesome. And I had really kind of got out of shape last year, and from difficult times with family, just you put on the pounds. If you're not careful, the pounds come on. And
The
in
older you
January,
get, the easier they come on. I mean, it doesn't even have to like, it's weird to me. And it's not fair, but it's true. Like additional stress, emotional changes, and nothing else, and stress and pounds will come on. So
yeah, it's
you're
like
going,
in America, you have to be deliberate. You have to really be deliberate to stay healthy as we age. I feel like if we just do status quo, you just start gaining weight. It's because of America. As a country, we just eat more. We just eat more than other countries. I mean, in Europe, when I lived in Europe for 3 years, they just don't eat as much, and just what it is, and it's, I don't, I don't know. We don't know how to fix that other than, I guess, eat less. As you age, we just don't need to eat as much. And so intermittent fasting is one thing I do at times. And you can train your body to intermittent fast for 16 hours, 18 hours, 20 hours, even 24 hours. So I'll do a 24-hour fast sometimes, but 16-hour fasts are really a great way to go. You just give your body a little break from eating. I don't like it. I don't think anyone likes it. But after 2 or 3 days, you can really train your body that you can go easily for 16 to 18 hours without eating. Because for 7 or 8 hours, you're asleep. You kind of, you cheat that way. So, but going back to the 75 Hard, it was just a program that was really interesting because for 75 days, it requires you to work out twice a day for 45 minutes. one indoor workout, or at least one workout has to be outdoors. And it could be snowing, it could be raining. You have to work out outdoors for 45 minutes. So there's 2 45-minute workouts, and you drink a gallon of water. You follow a pretty strict diet, so you're not eating all the junk that you normally eat, and no alcohol. No alcohol. So, and there might be a couple of things I'm missing, but those are kind of the gist of 75 hard. And I did this with 2 other US Endo individuals. Am I allowed to say their names, do you think, or not? Would they
I
mind?
would think so. No, I don't think
Yeah,
they'd mind.
well, they're wonderful. Some of my favorite people in the world is Derek White and Ronnie Rao, of course, my brother-in-law. We both all did it together, and I highly recommend it, doing this with friends if you were interested in it. But after 75 days, you're required to move. I would work out in the morning for 45 minutes. I'd come home after work. I would go, instead of drinking and sitting on the couch, my wife and I would go on a walk, or I'd go on a run, or I would do something outside, and I would stretch. I'd even stretch outside. Stretching, you could do a yoga stretch, but a lot of times I ran or I walked with my wife. And guess what? After 30 days, 20, I started feeling much, much better. And I'm not drinking at all, and I'm moving all the time. My nutrition is solid. I'm sleeping better, and it was a pain. It was a pain to do it because you had to follow this every day, 75 days. And, at the end of the 75 days, I had lost 25 pounds.
Oh my
Okay.
gosh.
Yeah. And we went on a family trip to Lake Tahoe to go skiing, with a lot of our family and cousins. And we went to the jacuzzi. It was the last day of my 75 hard. So I fulfilled all my requirements. We went to the jacuzzi. I had to hold my bathing suit on because it would fall right off. And I
Oh
remember
my
it was the
gosh.
first time I had a 6-pack since like 20 years. I had a little 6-pack for,
I would be going shirtless everywhere, Reid.
yeah, it was freezing cold, but I had the shirt
Did
off.
you see my abs?
Yeah, it's like they're only going to be there for a month, but I remember my nephew, or one of my cousins, you would kind of say nephew, but cousins, he was 20, 22, and he said, we were lifting, I was lifting all the time, and Derek and Ronnie, we were all lifting and walking, kind of working out too. And he said, "Hey, will you train me? Will you be my trainer?" Which made me laugh in my head because I could not even see myself, as a trainer, like as a joke. Like so, it had such an impact on me.
That's a compliment too, though.
Yeah,
a young kid looking at you, wanting you to train them because of what you look like. That's pretty. I would be shouting that from the rooftop.
Well, yeah, I'm excited. I was excited for the time. I'm like, hey, I'll take it, because you're just 75 days before I felt like old and fat and just so unhealthy. And so just things like that. You don't have to be that extreme to do a 75 hard program. But when I finished it, the first thing we did was we went to the bar. The next day I was at the bar with,
of course,
my cousins, and we're having drinks, and I'm like, just one drink, only one drink, because I want to take it slow. And 5 drinks later, we're having a great time, but instantly.
But you're celebrating. Later, I mean, honestly, you're celebrating. Right.
And I had a great time, but the funny thing was it was a very difficult 75 days. It was hard to do, but I missed it after 4 or 5 days. I look back going, those are some of the best 75 days I've had in years. And I wish I had the discipline to follow through with some of the stuff and
keep doing it all the time.
Yeah. Or just be balanced, be more balanced than I am, instead of all in or all out. It's like, I can't be in the middle. And that's kind of what I'm trying to figure out right now with this health in dentistry and longevities. How can we be more in the middle and balanced, and where we can have a drink but not drink every night, or not drink at all, or what makes you feel better, what makes you healthy, instead of doing this strict diet and I'll do this and that. And it's great. I like doing that at times, but where can we just be consistent? I saw a thing online that said, yeah, 75 hard is great, but how about 365 days consistent? 365 days consistent. And I think maybe Ronnie or Derek sent that to me, and I go, oh, I like that. It's like,
I mean, that is good. It's funny because I obviously been working a lot with Derek White, and he is a wonderful person, and so is his wife Jean, and then Ronnie. I mean, we're very blessed with all the people here, but I've obviously been around Ronnie. He's my boss, and they talk about 75 hard. So it's been something that I have been hearing about for a while, and that what they said is that it's a mental toughness exercise more than it's a diet or physical regimen type thing. It is really more about just mental tough, because is it true that if you're doing the hard 75 or 75 hard, whatever, is it 75 hard? Anyway. Okay. If you're doing it, if you mess up, your 75 days starts over. Right. So like if you make it to day 74 and you didn't follow through, 75 starts right back over again. And that's the whole point. Right. And they also said that part of that, which I like, because it's kind of it's bettering yourself because you're reading self-help books too. Like you can choose what you want. Like can't you choose the diet you want, and the books you want, but you have to read every day, or did Ronnie just put that one in because
That's right.
he likes to read books? Okay.
Yeah, I forgot the two other things. You take a picture of yourself every day, like in shorts, and then you
no one needs to do that. Well, I would not want to do that.
It encourages you, because at day 1 you have your picture, and then day 75 you have a picture. You can kind of compare them, and it's pretty neat to see. But you do read 10 pages of a nonfiction motivational book a day, and it is true. It is a mental toughness program. That was the whole point of the developer of this. How can we be mentally tougher than to be consistent in our life with this? And the result of it is the mental toughness you gain, but there's a physical result too, where you actually look a lot better, and you're healthier and stuff. But I still am working on the mental toughness part, because right after the 75 days, I did pretty well for a while, but then I just went back to some of my old habits.
Well, but I think that's too, there's something about that too, right? It's moderation. I think part of the whole thing is you have to also live life, right? Like there's things we enjoy as long as you keep with it most of the time. Is that fair?
I agree. Yeah. And that's, I haven't figured that out though, because I have a weird personality where I'm either all in or all out. So, and that's what I'm hoping. And it did help me. 75 Hards helped me to be a little bit more consistent, but I'm still working on that progress.
It's funny. I think that's a perfectionistic quality. Like when people think of perfectionists, I think they think people have to be perfect all the time. And that's what a perfectionist is. I think that's not necessarily true. If you really study perfectionism, it is people who, when they can't be perfect, they're not going to do it. Right. And so, so you're not going to be a perfectionist. Okay. Then I'm just not going to go there. And that is that in or out. And that's kind of where I'm at. Like it's funny. And that's one of the things when you're talking about just consistency and the balance, that's where I've been, like, I've reached this point in my life where it's about just do something every day and do the best I can every day. If it's not perfect, it's okay. I have to give myself grace. Like I constantly okay, so yes, I need to lose a lot of weight and I need to get outside and move more. And I need to not watch as much Netflix and all those things. I picked up a lot of bad habits with COVID, I think. And so
I think we all did.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, I wasn't the person who exercised all the time. I was the person who was just this is great, laying around and doing nothing. And, and I think that comes from, I was 12 years a single mom of 3 very active boys. I had a really busy job. I traveled all the time. I think I just got to a point of adrenal fatigue and stress and cortisol and all the stuff. And I think I reached a breaking point, and COVID gave me the excuse to just chill. And it was so nice. And so I learned something from that about giving back to myself, and just I did things. That's where I started picking up yoga a lot. Sitting and being, I started doing a lot of self-reflection, more about how do I become happier and how do I live a joyful life instead of chasing after the ambition and all this kind of stuff, just being happy where I am and centered, and it kind of more of a mental, I guess, because I have been chasing the physical for so long and have been unsuccessful with it, that it's just, I don't know. For me, it's about how am I okay where I'm at and find happiness here. And it's really been a journey for me, but I have to say that side of me that's like you, it's either all or nothing. That side of me is really intrigued by the 75 hard, but I've also read online that there's a 30 soft, or maybe it's a 75 soft, but it's not the hard version, but it's picking up the habits. And it's probably more like what you're talking about, which is the moderation and the consistency, where you don't have like I think on the 30 soft, you can have a drink every now and then, like it's okay, but it's just don't have one every night, or, make sure you're exercising and doing something and moving every day and all that kind of stuff. So I was like, maybe I should start there. And then, because the mental toughness is the thing that I am lacking these days. It's weird. It's like, I don't know how you get it.
It's hard. And I noticed too, doing it with a group of guys with two really good friends, and we really supported each other. Ronnie and Derek, we all supported each other every day. And then after the 75 hard, not to go too deep into it, but there's 3 more phases of 30 days. There's 3 more 30-day phases separated, where you do kind of the same thing. But it took me 5 times to finish the first 30-day phase. I just finished about a week ago.
And what is the first 30-day phase?
It's the same thing as 75 hard, but you add a 5-minute cold shower. You do 3 tasks that are really important stuff. Like I would go under my red light therapy, my Juve lights, and I would do 10 minutes of my Juve lights, and then I would also work on my education stuff. So that was 2 of the things. I would read the Bible and pray would be my 3rd one. And so those are kind of like the tasks. You have these more tasks. Oh, and you have to do a 10-minute visualization, like of your ideal life. So, but how did I fail? What do you think caused me to fail those 30 days 5 times? What would you guess? Of all the tasks, to take a picture, workouts, everything, what did I fail on? Would you guess?
The
drinking. I got to Las Vegas once for a lecture. I was 2 weeks into it. 2 weeks. And I came down to the dinner, and my friend he texted me and said, "Hey, I already got you a margarita." He knows I like margaritas. He goes, "I already got your margarita. It's sitting on the table." I had no willpower. I proceeded to have 4 margaritas and then wake up and speak for a half day the next morning. So, and it's interesting. So it's an interesting program, because it makes you reflect on a lot of things about your life and how mentally tough and what triggers you. And, we do a lot of things. I just think I got something from a friend of mine. I won't say his name because I didn't ask permission, but he said everything we do is we run from pain and we try to run to pleasure. And what are we doing when we do that? Are we running to alcohol from our pain to pleasure, or food? Are we running to God? Are we running away from God? It's a very interesting time to reflect. And I think first we should just stop and reflect.
I think that's interesting.
Right?
Yeah. And so I'm reading a book right now, that Brett Gilbert. So I did a podcast with Brett Gilbert, and he recommended a book.
I love Brett.
I know, me too. Brene Brown. And, gosh, and I'm not, it's Living a Wholehearted Lifestyle. That's not the title of it, but that's what it's about. And I can't remember that the title is someplace around that, but I'm blanking on it right now for some reason, because I'm old, I guess. But in that, what fascinates me about what you just said is the thing that we don't realize is when you are running from pain and you're numbing pain, like, so you usually go to things to get to pleasure. So a lot of people turn to food, to alcohol, to, over exercising, maybe. I mean, it could be something even perceived as healthy, like whatever it is. When you do that, the problem is when you numb pain, you numb joy and happiness. You can't get rid of one without getting rid of both. And so that piece of it really I was like, that is crazy. And I don't think it means that you can't experience joy and alcohol, or joy and alcohol. Listen to me, joy and happiness.
We do.
I know. I mean, like, I think that, like, we can go have
I
fun
know.
and do but like my probably comfort. And I think the way I was raised growing up is food. Like, that's the thing that I probably more, because I don't go to alcohol. I like to have fun with alcohol and all that kind of stuff, but that's not my go-to on a regular basis. I don't have a problem leaving that piece behind. Except in certain social situations. I would say that would be, and you know probably what situations I'm talking about, but there's just certain people you get around and you just need to have a drink with them. Like, you just can't help it, right? But for me, it's the food, and it's the comfort, and it's the thing that takes you back, but it's also the one thing that makes me feel really terrible about myself. So it gives, like, there's things that give you joy and pleasure, and I enjoy eating it, but at the same time it's counterintuitive to the desire of the outcome that I want, which is to be thinner and feel better about myself and all those kind of things too. So anyway, I thought that was really interesting. And you're saying that, you're quoting your friend, because you run from pain and you go to pleasure, but at the end, that pleasure seeking probably takes you right back to pain. So
Yeah,
anyway,
that's so good. I didn't think about that. That really resonates with what you're saying. And I do food more than alcohol. I could joking around about alcohol, but I think food is a big one. And you're right. Everything you said is you try to get pleasure from the food and it ends up leading you back to the pain. You're running from pain yeah, it's a cycle. It's interesting. It really is. And yeah.
it's crazy. And I think that's more like, even what we're talking about, I think that's more of the that's mental toughness. That's mental, what's the word? Mental health. I mean, like, that's just emotional mental health. Like, it's like food is an addiction. I mean, it can be an addiction, and it can be just, it nourishes you and all that stuff. But all these things that take us away from that place of, I don't want to deal with this or whatever. It can just, anyway, it's mentally, I have to retrain myself to not go like, that's like, you have to just stop and go, hey, I don't want to feel that way. I don't like how the result that's going to give me. And I'm going to have about 5 minutes of pleasure while I'm doing it. And then it's going to get me right off my thing. So that's the thing I'm training myself on these days. Probably not very successfully, but anyway.
It's not easy, that's for sure. So
Now, so what are the next two phases of 75 hard? What do you do after the first 30 days?
after you finish the first 30 days, and you have to take a 30-day break, and then you do 30 days more after, whenever you decide. It could be 2 months later, a month later. It has to be at least a month later. And then you just do the same thing as the 75 hard, the same exact thing, the two
Okay.
workouts, no alcohol, no, diet, and 10 pages a day, stuff like that. I haven't done that yet, but I may start that soon. Don't ever do this over 4th of July and major holidays. That was very difficult for me. We were all at the
Good call.
beach. Everyone's at the beach, and all my son's friends are down there, and they're all over 21. It's like I'm buying all the alcohol, but I'm not partaking. So
Like, that
anyway,
is not any fun.
yeah. So, but yeah, that was a very interesting thing to do this year, and it started to get me to think about some other things too. And my wife always kind of makes fun of me and laughs at me because she says, "Reid, you know the answer. You know how to feel better. You know the answer." Because I buy all these things. I read all these books. I buy all these things. I have Juve lights, the red light therapy, the near infrared and infrared lights, which are actually pretty good. I have PIMF, not PIMP. I have PIMF, pulse electromagnetic field therapy machine.
What does that do?
What it does these low frequency magnetic waves. And what they found is it actually decreases pain and inflammation and increases your circulation. I just bought it. It's called the Halo, HAELO, Halo, and it's not expensive, but it's not cheap either. It's about $2,800 or so. But it's like this halo, and you put it on your chest or your leg, and it just sends these electromagnetic waves, and you have these different modes. You can do recovery, mode, and there's a bunch of things in the recovery mode, and there's even a peaceful mode before you go to sleep, which my wife and I have been doing as we're watching TV, which we do a lot of times. We watch TV at night. We run this PIMF machine, this Halo, pulse electromagnetic therapy wave, and field therapy, and we'll run it, and we'll do the healing, and the calm, and it helps. My wife and I both notice it helps us to sleep better. And then you have the
I'm all in on
pre-workout.
that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, give me a month or so, and I've only had it for a month, and I'm testing it, and I like it. It's just these are all adjunct things. They're good. It's unfortunately it's for you have to have some bit of affluence to be able to purchase all this stuff. Like the Juke
Right.
lights are not cheap. This Halo PEMF machine isn't cheap. I have the Normatec. Do you know the Normatec that you put the leg sleeves on, and it's a vasopressor, and it presses. It kind of it increases your circulation by pressing all your lymphatic drainage, and you wear that
Mhm.
for 30 minutes. And I have that. It's a pretty interesting machine. Um, I have the one thing I really recommend for everyone is a Hypervolt. The Hypervolt is the from Hyperice. Is
Never
an
heard of
amazing
this.
device. It's a massager, like oh, what do you call it? It's like it massages your body. It's a
Yeah.
gun. I forget what they call it, a compression gun or whatever, and you massage your body. So my wife and I will do that to each other. Is we're like watching TV, we'll lay on the couch and she'll do my back, and even my kids. After my daughter was playing soccer, we would always do it on her legs. So, but
Okay, I do have that. I have one of those those compression gun things that
yes,
I didn't know it was called that, but I don't know that mine's that brand. But anyway, like we have two of them in our house because I bought it for myself, and my children kept stealing it because they're all athletes, and they'd come home from football and they're just like, man, I'm just really super sore. Where is that one? So finally I bought them their own because I had to keep going upstairs and I'm too lazy to go up there and get it when I want it. And it was never
yeah,
charged. It would always
a
inevitably not be
hundred
charged.
percent.
So yeah,
Oh,
anyway,
that's our problem too. But
yeah, it's a wonderful thing.
it's the Hypervolt, and then there's I do like the hyperbaric chamber. So I go to the chiropractor, not always, but I should go more. But he'll work on me with, you know, I forget what they call it, but a release therapy. He's really strong, and he'll help lower my kind of release some of that scar tissue in my lower back and get the blood flowing again. Then he'll run a laser on me, and he also has a hyperbaric chamber at his office, and so I'll sit in the hyperbaric chamber for 30 minutes to an hour, and it just perfuses you with oxygen. It really chills you out. I'll go to cryotherapy. I just did cryotherapy this morning. I do
I want to try
cryotherapy, which is
cryotherapy. I've never done it.
it's amazing. I know Ronnie's done it with me. I have a great picture of Ronnie actually, in some green boxers. So it's an amazing picture. But I do the cryotherapy chamber, and I massage. I think I really am a big believer in a massage. Uh, and then I even have a massage chair in my house. So sometimes you can watch TV sitting in the massage chair. But I really believe all of that is good and it's helpful. But it all boils down to going back to what my wife said, Reid, you know the answer. And we've talked about the answer kind of already. And it goes to nutrition, decent nutrition. You don't have to be perfect. Better nutrition, just to get your body responding well and feeling better with your nutrition, not eating a ton of fried foods and a bunch of sugar. It's just going to make you feel crappy. Better nutrition, movement. We have to move. We have to move. Stretching. I think stretching might be the number one thing of all of us dentists and endodontists. We have to stretch. And you're doing.
I think I agree with you 100%. I feel like when you age, like the older I get, it's just stiffness is everywhere. It's terrible. Obviously doing it, having the profession like you do and things like that where you're frozen all the time would make it even worse. But that's the one thing Blake and I talk about all the time. It's the flexibility. It's that freedom of movement that starts setting in, that goes away, I should say, with the stiffness and all that kind of stuff. So yoga, like I if I go a day or two without doing yoga, I'm right back to hip pain. I'm right back to really low back pain. I would say what it is. It's amazing to me that stretching is such a big deal. Who knew? And they never have you stretch anymore in athletes. I feel like don't stretch really.
No, I don't think they do a good stretch before or after. You kind of do need to do a pre-game stretch and a post-game stretch. just doing like that hip stretch. I don't even know what you call it. Like, it's not a hurdle stretch, but I stretch my hips out. There's one stretch I do where I kind of put my leg up and I lean forward on my leg. It'll stretch my hips. I'll do that for 2 minutes on each side. Just that one stretch with a 4-minute time crunch or time constraint or whatever you want to call it. It relieves my pain 50%. One stretch. And so I really believe you got nutrition, you move, you exercise, you got to move. Even coming home at night, if you can go on a little walk with your wife after dinner or husband, 30 minutes after, or 30 minutes after you eat or whatever, and then good sleep, and there's a variety of ways you can get better sleep and turn your brain off. But if those 4 things, they're stuff we already know, but do I stretch every day? No, but when I do stretch, if I do a 30-minute stretch in the morning and a 15-minute post-work stretch, I feel amazing. It's a gift that keeps on giving for days. But do I do it every time? No. And that's why I'm talking about this, because I'm still working on this. I still have a lot of growth in this. It's amazing where if we could start to think about having like my big thing is now I have a pre-work routine and I have a post-work routine. So I'm really trying to do my pre-work routine where I get an hour workout in the morning, and part of that's cardio if I can, part of that's lifting or some kind of strength, and then part of that's stretching. And when I do that, if it's even an hour and 15 minutes and I go to work, I feel like I can conquer the world. I feel amazing. When I don't do it, I feel like a different person. I'm not engaged as much. My brain's foggy. And so I go to work, I feel great. And then you get beat up. You get the dental mental trauma, you get the dental physical trauma through the day. And then going home, and now I'm really trying to focus on that post-work routine where I could do a 15-minute stretch and maybe a 30-minute walk with my family. And then those are great times too. I connect with my wife, I chat, and it's much better than just sitting on the couch and having 2 glasses of wine. Although I do like that too. So when we come home,
then you can have the 2 glasses of wine. You can have the 2 glasses of wine because you went for the walk. That's what's important. Well, I think too, what you're saying is really something I have been becoming more cognizant of in my own life, and something I personally will work on. So it's like this conversation helps me because it's funny. There's a lot of things going on in my world where I'm just like, I will get so tired. And I'm one of those people, if I go a week or 2 without any kind of exercise, getting back to exercise, getting back, like it just is overwhelming. Like it's just like, but I'm so tired. How am I ever going to I don't want to go do that. Like the more I lay on the couch and do nothing, the more that sounds like the answer, because I'm exhausted. And exercise and healthiness goes out the window. The more I exercise and healthiness is there, the more I realize how much better I feel, how much more energy I have, all the things. And so it's funny, I have these conversations with myself all the time now, like, get your lazy ass up and go do something because you're exhausted. And that means you need to get out and get some energy, get some sun, get some, just be outside in the air, do the thing. So I've started trying to tell myself, talk myself into lately, instead of just doing my hard workout. And, I have a Peloton, I ride the Peloton.
Wonderful.
Pretty much.
Do you feel good when you ride that? Is that something?
Oh my gosh.
Because
yes.
That's something I want to incorporate into my life.
You should get it for somebody who has bad hips and stuff, has a lot of pain. Like I used to be a runner. Now I was never a marathon runner. I get bored. I also have ADHD, and that is just too long doing anything. But the longest I would ever run was like probably 15K, about 10 miles. And I would run religiously, and, going out and running 3 miles a day was just nothing. It was just, and it helps. I mean, like, it cleared my head. It did all this stuff. With my hips and everything the way they are, I just can't run anymore. I can't do the exercising like I used to. I also used to be a big heavy into weightlifting, love to lift, and really just any kind of physicality. And then something happened. I think it was when I became a single mom. I ran out of time. I just never had time for myself. I never had time to do anything, and everything just kind of went downhill from there. So I'm trying to get back into lifting. which I'm doing, and lifting heavy. I think lifting heavy is very important as you get older too. More important than cardio for sure. But there's something about the sweat. I'm a sweater. First of all, I'll think about getting hot and I'm immediately just drenched with sweat. Um, but there's just something about that. Like I love to just have a really tough, hard workout where I just am drenched in sweat. It's like, I don't know what it is for me, but it just brings a whole level of accomplishment and pleasure. And just like, I feel really good about myself. You can't do that walking, and I can't run anymore. So I finally purchased a Peloton probably about 2 years ago, a year ago, maybe it was just a year ago. Man, do I sweat like crazy. And I feel like it just gives me that ability to really get a hard workout in and get my blood pumping and really challenge my heart. And it's so good for me mentally. Like I love it. So it's something I crave. I think you should try it. I think you'd love it. And it doesn't hurt my hips. Doesn't hurt my hips at all. Like I can,
Okay. Does it
it's,
loosen you up? Do you feel looser in
oh
your lower back and hips?
yeah. So my routine is I do that and yoga, then follow it up with yoga every day. And it is
Oh,
just
wonderful.
like, it is like the best. So some days like today, what I did today was just a really, I did what I call it, what they call a restorative ride. So it's just, you're getting on and you're moving. You're not doing anything too super hard. You still sweat and all that kind of stuff, but it's really, cause today's my off day, but I still did yoga, and did that. So not a big day, but I mean, usually by the time I'm done with the Peloton and then the yoga, and I just do the yoga on the Peloton classes. It's great instruction. They're great. It's great. I love it. So,
That's good to know that there's a yoga there. Maybe that's excellent. So
oh
I'll
yeah,
maybe do that same routine.
they actually have everything. They have yoga, they
Yeah.
have Pilates, they have boxing, they have, they have dance class. I mean, like dance aerobic type things. They do strength training. They do core training. They have everything. Like you can pretty much do any training from the app that you want to. So, I highly recommend it. I actually started a US Endo Partners tag. You create these hashtags so you can go join if you want and do US Endo Partners. So, and
Oh,
we can
that's
follow
great.
each other.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know what's interesting about this? What you just said is this is self care. So you said becoming a single mom, you kind of gave yourself up in a sense by taking care of your kids, and that's what wonderful mothers do. And it doesn't. Of course, we don't. We're always trying to figure out how to have time for ourselves, and that's always sometimes a very difficult. That's a difficult prospect. But yeah, I know now as we get older, and as my other brother-in-law says, once you let the old man in, he'll never leave. So
Oh my
how he's
gosh,
been
it's
battling.
so true.
Another thing I just heard from a friend is if you don't fly first class, your kids will. They're going to use your money and they'll fly first class. So my
That
wife
is,
and I are like, you know what? When it's reasonable, we're flying first class because we're older now. Well, we're not older. We're not letting the old man in or the old woman, but we are going to enjoy our time together. If we're going to fly to a trip, we're going to fly first class if it's reasonable because our kids, if we don't, our kids will.
and
So I
that
thought
is
that was good.
100% true. And you know what? The little turds sometimes, I love my children dearly. They are the best in the world, but good God, they are spoiled rotten. And you know what? We deserve it. We're the ones that work hard. We deserve to have those little luxuries.
Totally.
And sitting in first
Yeah.
class doesn't make your hips hurt as bad as sitting back in the cargo seat. God, flying is miserable these days.
Oh, I just about a month or two ago, I flew to Italy for a conference and I flew in business class. And I just don't even want the plane to land.
I,
It's so nice.
I
It is
know.
so great.
Did you have one of
I've
the
done that a few times.
compartments like where you get to lay down?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, those are the
Yes.
best. Yeah. Once you have them, you
It,
can
it,
never go back.
yeah, it's hard to go back to just economy, I always think in my head, I'm like, I'm so spoiled, but it's just once you get the luxury, it's hard to go back. But I really do think going back to self-care, and that's sort of I almost feel like that's kind of the theme of what we've been talking about is how can we take care of ourselves? And I do the elliptical, I used to run too, and I still do a little bit, but the elliptical really loosens me up. I feel great if I do 20 to 30 minutes of the elliptical and then I lift or stretch. I mean, it's a great low impact, low stress, and it loosens my neck, my back up, my neck, my hips. and then followed up by yoga or stretch, And so making that time, really trying to make that time for self-care, because I want to be healthy. I like endodontics sometimes.
I'd say a
Sometimes,
lot of times. I think you like it a lot, actually.
I like it a lot, but I would like to retire in it, where I would work a day or two a week, and you're just seeing 4 or 5 patients a day. You're just, because I enjoy it, and and the patients that bite your finger, you give to your partner, right? You don't see those patients anymore.
Right.
Actually, by the way, I did have a patient on Tuesday that bit my finger and wouldn't let go, and I said, "You're biting my finger," and she goes, "Oh, I didn't know." And she was a very difficult patient, very anxious patient, one of the hardest patients I've had in a while. And I just was in shock. Like, how do you not know you're biting someone's finger?
Yeah.
So,
Like, what did
you
she
know,
think it was? Like, did she think you had a
I don't
device
know.
in her mouth or something? That's weird.
Yeah, I was about ready to walk out and just walk away, leave for the day. So, and I had 3 patients like that in a row on that Tuesday of this week. And, and that's where like the dental mental trauma, absorbing all those little trauma packets, for 20 years, 22 years, and then it kind of builds up. And how do we take care of ourselves? How do we take care of ourselves? And I'm a big believer in self-care, of moving, nutrition, stretching, and then good sleep. Also, though, I really am a big believer now in mental health. And this is something that's a little harder to talk about, and something that people don't want to talk about. And I was very embarrassed to talk about mental health for a long time. But I think we need to talk about it.
Well,
So,
let's
but
do
I
it.
started, yeah. And so I started seeing a therapist about 3 years ago, once a week. And I've been pretty consistent for 3 years. And I can tell you, Kim, I was the last person in the world that thought they needed to see a therapist, which is always the person that needs to see a
That needs it.
therapist
Yeah. Who needs
when
it the
you
most? Probably. Yeah.
needs it the most.
Look at you.
I just
Look at
said,
you
I don't,
growing, Reid. I'm so proud of you.
yeah, thank you. But, I always said, I read these motivational books. I read the self-help books. You work harder, you can get better. The harder you work, you can make it happen. You can believe in, and I believe in myself. I'm very confident. I believe in myself. I can do it. I feel like I'm strong, whatever. I also have all these insecurities too. Don't get me wrong. But my, we work out our body. We do our physical training. We do our Peloton. We do our elliptical. But who works out our mind? We don't. We forget to work out our mind. We don't exercise our mind. A good therapist has encouraged me and to exercise my mind, and to get some of my thinking. I had some really poor thinking, extreme thinking, negative thinking, anger. I had a lot of anger, and he helped me really start working some of that out. And there were so many things that I just walked away. Some sessions were okay. Other sessions, whoa, you walk out of there and you just go, you have to kind of sit on the bench. I had to go sit on the bench outside and just stare at the waterfall. There's like a little water fountain there, and just go, wow, that was a lot. But over the years, it's one of the best things that I've ever done.
How, like, with on those days that you felt like it was a lot, how, like, I mean, being in the moment is one thing and it feels like a lot. The next day, how did you feel?
That's a good question, because you would think that a difficult time, a difficult part in your life, a trauma or something that happened, that it would really affect the week. But what I found was, actually, we worked through it, and I kind of walked out of there in sort of in a shock. Almost, your brain was shocked. But then the result of it was, and it was quite wonderful that this happened, was peace. A lot of it was peace, and it followed through the through the week. Not always, but mostly in general, I felt pretty good, and I would reflect back on it. I was able to think about some of those tough times in my life and work through it, but not feel that anxiety or the anger. And my wife is I have a wonderful, wonderful wife of 26 years. She just finished a master's in spiritual formation. It's like a Christian therapy, and she's starting another master's, her third master's, in marriage and family therapy. So she's basically a therapist. She works at Biola, one of the universities, as a kind of like as a spiritual counselor for the students for mental health. So she's kind of a counselor already. So I get counseled I get a therapy session, then I get a therapy session at home for my wife. But my wife is a wonderful listener, and she probes by asking gentle questions after my therapy session. Or if I have poor thinking, she just gently asks questions, no judgment, just in a loving way, and gets me to reflect on if I'm angry about something or anxious about something. So that's a piece that I was really surprised about, that I didn't think I needed, or that I thought I was very healthy mentally. And I'm able to now put the self-care piece together, not just a physical care, but a physical health, but a mental health, and kind of put those two together. And I've really lived these last few years we've had such difficult circumstances in our life with our kids, two of our kids, but I've been able to feel the grief that we've seen, but also have tremendous joy through that process. It's called a both and. There's both grief, there's both, and there's a grief and joy, so it's kind of an interesting thing. I didn't know that existed. I thought it was grief only, and not, you can't have both. But you can oftentimes have both, even in
at the same time.
the same time. So
That's interesting. And I know that you're not the counselor, but I would love for you to elaborate on that a little bit about how you can have both at the same time. Because I would say it's probably outlook is what I'm guessing. It's just how you choose to look at the situation. Is
that's
that
a good
it?
question. I don't. That's how I think it could be. That I don't know if that's it though. I'm trying to think about this. I The last few years we've had tremendous grief, and we almost lost our daughter last year, and so
I'm
it's
so
been,
sorry.
uh, thank you, but it's been a tough year, and I've never felt such grief in my life. And it's funny because I don't, at this point right now, Kim, I don't know if we have a positive outlook on that situation. We have hope, but there's not a lot of positive right now at this point. But we hope that that'll get there. So my wife and I constantly hold this grief in our system, in our body, I guess, in our mind. Yet we still continue to have joy together and joy with our family, our other kids and family, but even amongst this tough situation, so it's it's very interesting. I never imagined that I'd be in this situation. And I know there's a lot of mental health issues going on right now in our teenage kids because of our culture is really messed up, but that's another story, another time, another podcast. But also,
I know that could take months to digest right there and unpack, but it's true. But it affects our kids so much. It does. I mean, this culture that we live in, where there's just so much hate and anger that's easily exchanged over social media and not even just social media. It's taught people how to be mean to each other, I think, and it's just you kind of like lost a lot. And I do feel terrible for our kids who are so reliant on social media and how they feel about things. So, I mean, that is one. It's like I mean, it's terrible. Keep going. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to
no,
digress from
it,
the situation. I just was adding
it's
to, but
absolutely true what you said. I think there's a huge negative impact from social media. Not that it's all bad, but there's a negative impact. Our kids are living in a culture where there's no truth. Truth is what you want it to be, and it's difficult as a kid when you're still maturing to figure this out. And so in as a result of that, in my opinion, and COVID, there's a tremendous mental health crisis going on right now, and we personally had saw this last year. And even with my other daughter, she was terribly traumatized in high school. And we went through hell with that. Now she's an amazing, amazing woman, 20-year-old pre-med student right now, doing very well. We
Oh,
almost,
great.
yeah, she's a star, but we almost lost her also. Very close. And I've slept in hospital rooms the last 5 years more than I never thought I'd be in hospital room sleeping next to my kids. And at some point, my wife and I are like, I don't know if we could. Thank God we didn't have any more kids, because I don't think we could handle any more kids. The trauma we've absorbed, along with all the dental trauma. So it's
Yeah,
been
no kidding. There's a lot there, but God doesn't give you any more. I mean, there is a reason at the end of the day, and that it happened to you, and because He doesn't give you more than you can handle. So,
I believe that too.
it doesn't feel like it, I'm sure, at the time, but
Yeah.
but there's He knew you could make it through and be okay at some point. So,
Well, Kimmy, definitely, it definitely made me rely on God more than myself. I always rely on myself. I need to always be strong, through the self-help books and motivation, and got to be strong. And you end up relying on yourself. You try to control everything, and then you realize you're really not in control. And without getting religious or spiritual or anything, I don't want to, you got to be careful these days in this culture, but it made me rely on God. And I just pray constantly for just knowledge, and that God will kind of help me and show me the way, and His Spirit can be on me and flow in me, and be in His will per se. So I won't say anything more about that, so I don't offend everyone around me. But I don't think this group's very offendable.
If they're offended, that's on them. That's another thing we have to work on in that mental toughness we talk about. Is like what works for them works for them. What works for you works for you. So right. So but that's what gets people through things, is not having to do it alone. I mean, honestly, by ourselves, we are weak. With whatever that higher power is, for you and I, it's God. We can be strong, and that's a wonderful thing to be able to rely on. But I am so sorry that you've had such a rough go. I mean, honestly, Reid, I can't even imagine. Like, my kids are my life. They're my world. That makes me, I don't even know what that makes me feel, but that's a tough one.
This is what's crazy, Kim, is I was really very ashamed of the story. Not ashamed of my kids, but embarrassed. Mainly is I'm a terrible parent, like believing that because of what happened to two of my kids. And I finally started talking about it a little bit more. I kept it secret and hidden, but I was at the AAE, and I started just talking about it with some friends and people and stuff, just sharing it here and there with people I trusted. And guess what? I would say, and this
They're
is
dealing with the same things.
absolutely, yeah, absolutely. And some of those people were dealing with the same issues. And I was shocked. I was shocked at this. And I've grown closer to some of those individuals because of the sharing some things. And this is why I really feel like we need to talk about not only our physical health, but our mental health and self-care. And I have a real passion for that too, because I've been feeling, and you are too, you're feeling all this hip pain and physical pain. And I know that obviously we've all go through some mental trauma, and so, like, anyway, how can we take care of ourselves? How can we live a more vital life where we're happier and healthier, and we just love each other more and more? And I love to go on mission trips, Christian mission trips to Haiti. I've been to Liberia, I've been to Haiti 5 times, and if I'm in pain and I'm unhealthy mentally or physically, I can't even fathom going on those trips and serving others, So it's like, it just, when we take care of ourselves, self-care is not selfish. It then goes out, that concentric circle goes out, and it really benefits all of the people around us, including communities that are underserved, like Haiti, who make $3 a day if they're lucky. Here I am sitting as an endodontist in complete wealth, and these people are trying to just have a bite to eat, and so it's crazy, to think about that.
It is, and it's puts things in perspective too. I think when you go do service things like that, and help others. It just helps remind you that maybe your life isn't as terrible as it could, or hard, but not terrible. Let's not say terrible, because their lives are not terrible. They're probably, I mean, sometimes they're the most joyous people you've ever met, and they're blissfully happy. And I think that's another thing that we probably do, is get lost in how much money does buy happiness. And that is just not the case. I mean, it's just not, it makes things comfortable, but it doesn't provide happiness and joy. I mean, at all. And so it's always a life lesson I think you can learn from people who are out in places like Haiti, and how much joy and connection and family and strength that they have, and all these wonderful things. And it's just such a simplistic life. And we look at it and are like, oh my gosh, how do they live this way? And yet they're still happy. So I think there's a message there. And I do want to say thank you wholeheartedly for sharing your story about the mental health, Reid. And I'm proud of you and impressed with you. Because it is hard to share sometimes that we're struggling, and putting it out there. You have to be very vulnerable to be able to talk about things like that. And that's hard. Vulnerability is hard to have, but it's so helpful to other people when you can share your stories, because the fact of the matter is, especially I think more now than ever, people are suffering and people are struggling, and even parenting, it takes a village. There's a reason that quote exists, because even if they're not directly impacting your kids and helping you there, getting through life with children, and you don't get the rule book. There is no rule book for engagement and how you're supposed to raise your kids and get it right. I mean, like, I apologize to my firstborn all the time. I'm like, I am so sorry that I screwed you up, because parenting is hard. And so being able to benefit from people who's been through tough times and hard times and survived it and are getting through it, those are the people you want to be able to call on and talk to and figure out how to help others through the same situation. So I appreciate that. And I couldn't agree with you more. Mental health is important. After I left my company that I was with 4 years ago, it was a real battle for me for a lot of different reasons. I was blaming the company and I was very angry, but I called it my wellness journey. It was the beginning of my wellness journey. I quit and I left, and it wasn't getting in shape. It wasn't exercising. It wasn't all that I went to. It was counseling. And I was like, the same thing. I have anger, so much anger, and I don't even know how to deal with it. And I was turning into a person that I could not stand. I mean, I am a good, nice person. And I literally didn't even recognize myself. I was so angry and it was, I don't even know why Blake still married me, because it was right around the time that we got married. And what's funny is he kept going, something's wrong. Like, I love you, but this is not you. Like, you are not yourself. Like, you really are not yourself. And he recognized it and I recognized it. But now it's just giving me tools to cope with, and also perspective to know that I like the grief and the joy, but it's perspective to just know that sometimes things, we make a really big deal out of them, and it's just a thing. Like, it's just a thing. And how we handle it is totally different. But traumatic things in our lives are just, they can get a grip on you and never let go if you don't know how to process them appropriately. You're lucky that you have your wife and she can support you. I'm lucky I have a sister and a father who both are practicing counselors, and I know it's nice, and it influences my life every day. They're my dad is older now, and has dementia, and oh yeah, it's a tough one to go through, but he still is a good listener and has some good advice. But my sister Cassie, she's really good at helping walk through things and just talk through things from that perspective. So, like, kind of like you have your wife. So she's great at her job, and I'm super proud of who she is and what she does and how she contributes. I don't know how people who deal with counseling, she deals mostly with teenagers and people who are abused, and have different, some of the stuff that she deals with in life. I'm like, I don't even know how counselors carry that burden around, but I'm so thankful and grateful that they exist. It's got to be the same thing. Like, you take all these pockets of trauma, they need to do the same thing. They've got to have a healthy way. I mean, it just comes full circle, right? It's taking self-care and having a healthy way to process that, because that is a lot of emotional baggage that they have to deal with. I mean, like, I would just cry all the time and adopt children. That's where I would be if I was in that situation. I'd be like, you're not going back there. You're living with me. Let's go. No. So, yeah, it's crazy. But anyway, go ahead.
I was going to say, what's interesting with like you said it, you nailed it when you said you were going through a hard time with anger and all this stuff going on in this time in your life, but you went to counseling and therapy to help process some of these I call it the swirl, right? You start swirling down this crazy swirl in your mind, and you kind of going down the tornado or whatever, the whirlpool, right? Down in the water.
The vortex. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And, how do we stop that swirl? How do we process these thoughts? And, it's made me, I've always been a talker, and in my family, we all talk, everybody's talking, getting our word in. No one listens, they do now, but we were, early on we weren't listening, but now I've become a much more compassionate soul and a better listener, thanks to my wife and thanks to therapy. And, I have never been able to cry in my life. It's weird. I never had tears. And now it's like, I'm like the exact opposite. It's like my friend lost his mother from cancer recently. He was telling me, and I just started crying. And years ago, I had no idea what to do with that. And that's okay if you're at that spot, but I just didn't know what to do. And I see a lot of my friends, they don't know what to do when I tell them my story about my daughter. And now I'm just so much more compassionate with people, and even if they disagree with my views in politics or whatever, I'm trying to just listen and ask them questions, but just to love them too, and before I was kind of an a-hole at times on those things. I could be a real a-hole, and
well, sometimes you need to set boundaries and be an a-hole, honestly. Let's be like, there's a time and a place for it, but
for sure. So,
practicing compassion is good.
Oh man. Yeah.
It's it definitely, I came through talking about the crying. This is my perspective of that. And I'm so blessed. I'm a crier. I've always, for the most part, been a crier. They had to send me home in grade school. We were watching Benji, and I couldn't take it. The dog was lost and never going to find his family. And my teacher was like, "What is wrong with you?" And I was like, "It's sad." And she kept thinking I was saying I was sick. She sent me home sick because I was crying so hard at Benji. Dad had to take me out of Bambi, all the things. Like, I've always had this place in my heart and have a really soft heart. I got married to my first husband, and I'm, we'll leave it for what it is, but we were not good together. I think he was not in a happy place. Very emotionally abusive to me. Anyway, long story short, I went from this crying person to I never shed a tear in the 10 years I was married to him. I mean, like, it was this icing over. It was a protective mechanism for me. It was, I don't even know how to describe it, but it had to be. That's all I can describe it as. But it was weird. I did not cry. We divorced, without getting into all the detail of everything that happened. Went through therapy at that time as well. About 2 years after we divorced, suddenly I start crying again. And since then, it has been an open, so it's my gauge on healing. And now I'll know, like, if there's ever a point where I'm not moved by something and don't cry, I need to check myself, because I'm in an unhealthy place for sure. But it's just not who I am. So I wear the crying with a badge of honor. Reid, I think you should just come to that place with me. Wear it with a badge of honor. We have feelings. We have emotions. We're compassionate people, and it's a good thing. So
we'll cry together at the next conference.
I totally would love to do that. That would be great. So,
and we'll have a drink too. We'll have some joy. Right?
I was going to say, well, Well, and I was going to say, I know I've kept you on here for a really long time and it's been wonderful, but we should end on a high note.
Yes.
I believe.
Yes.
Are you with me?
I am with you.
Or do we? Although I feel guilty now that we've talked about all these healthy things and what we're going to do. I know. Now we're going to have the drink. But you and I, that is something that we've enjoyed doing since the day we met. And so I have my tequila. It's Casamigos because that's apparently your new favorite, and it's my favorite. I have I did it on the rocks, just tequila on the rocks and lime. Is that what you've got?
That's exactly what I have. That's my favorite drink. On the rocks with lime. I do three-fourths of a lime. Good. Very important.
It's funny. That's exactly what I did. 3/4 of a lime. So
it's perfect when you do that.
See, kindred spirits. Kindred spirits. I'm telling you. So
with 3 things, and then I'll let you finish. I really
yes, 100%.
I really am trying to going through all this mental self-care and mental health and physical health too. I'm really trying to live simply. I'm really trying to live in the present and live with joy. And those are my 3 things that I continue to say over and over again. And I'm really trying to love God and all of that too. But just live simply, just day to day, but live in the present. I'm not looking towards the future. I'm not looking in the past. I'm living in the present. And I'm really trying to live with joy. Even if there's grief in that time, I can still live with joy. So that's what I'd like to end with.
I love that. I love that. No, I'm glad you did. And I'm so thankful that you shared today. So with that, I am going to cheers with you. Live simply, live in the present, live with joy, practice self-care, and don't be ashamed. Don't be too proud to go to counseling because mental health is the key to everything. And thank you for being brave and sharing your story with us. I know anybody that wants to could reach out to you at any time. What is the name of your education program that you do there again? What's your website?
It's called rootcanalacademy.com, Root Canal Academy. But if you just go Reid Pullen at Root Canal Academy, at Reid Pullen at rootcanalacademy.com, and then you can reach me.
And I am sure that there are millions of people out there listening to this, or maybe a couple thousand is what we've been having typically.
Wonderful.
But that would love the opportunity and to pick your brain on any of these things that we've talked about today. So thanks for sharing your story. Cheers to you. Here's happy Friday and enjoy your tequila.
Thank you, Kim. Cheers to you back. Thank you so much.